So it's a very diverse faculty. There are a whole lot of very different people. It's very international because we have all those languages. We have more than 70 languages that we teach, which means that representatives of those languages are here. But of course, it's not only languages, but it's also history, archaeology, music, philosophy, and so on and so on. So it's a very diverse body of students and teachers. And it's also very friendly.
ELTE Walk. Everything you need to know about ELTE.
Welcome to the second season of the ELTE Walk podcast, a program of the ELTE International Strategy Office, which has been created to present everything you need to know about Flóra University as a prospective or current student. This program is produced in cooperation with RÉTHELYI Radio, the first university radio in the city of Pest. I am Raissa, International Student Ambassador and PhD candidate, joined by my co-host, Flóra ISKUM, head of the international office at the Faculty of Education and Psychology of the university. Today, we are talking about the Faculty of Humanities with our special guests, Orsolya, RÉTHELYI, Vice Dean for International Affairs, and Levente KÁLMÁN, former Vice President of the Student Union. I would just like you to introduce yourselves.
Thank you. I'm Orsolya RÉTHELYI, as you said. I am Vice Dean of International Affairs of the Faculty of Humanities. I'm also head of department of the Dutch Studies Department and Vice Head of the Germanic Studies Institute. And I'm on all levels very happy to be here at the Faculty of Humanities and represent the faculty on different levels.
How long are you part of ELTE?
That's a good question. 2005, so almost 20 years, 19 years. Wow. So an anniversary is is coming up next year.
How about you, Levente?
I've been at ELTE since I graduated high school. First, I completed a bachelor's in French studies with a minor in English. And now I'm doing my last semester of the undivided master's in the teacher training program with a specialization in English and in French. So I'm going to be a French and English teacher. During my university years, I was also part of the student council. I was Vice President for International Affairs and later Vice President for Financial Affairs. And now I'm enjoying my final semester here and planning to come back real soon. So also, I've been here for a while and I plan to be here for a little bit longer.
Okay, so you have a kind of a history with the faculty by now. So you must be quite familiar with the faculty and the different levels of the faculty. If you have to say or have to choose 3 attributes, how would you describe the Faculty of Humanities?
Well, for me, again, I forgot to say that this was the 19 years is my teaching history, but I've been a student, but that's so long ago that I don't even dare to, think back. But so indeed, if I look back on all those years, for me, it's a very inspirational faculty. So I've been on all those levels. I've encountered so much and so many different subjects and themes. So it's a very diverse faculty. There are a whole lot of very different people. It's very international because we have all those languages. We have more than 70 languages that we teach, which means that representatives of those languages are here. But of course, it's not only languages, but it's also history, archaeology, music, philosophy, and so on and so on. So it's a very diverse body of students and teachers, and it's also very friendly. So I think that's partly the location also. It's in the middle of Budapest. Budapest is a friendly city, but this campus is also very friendly. It's green, it's nice to, just to walk around, to get a coffee, to sit on the beanbags, meet people, listen to people, making music, talking. So it's, I think those words would be, well, I'm not sure that was 3, maybe it was more, but anyway. Well, that's how I would characterize the faculty.
Levente?
So for me, one of the adjectives I choose was also diverse. Diverse when it comes to people and also diverse when it comes to subjects and things you can learn about. I think there's only a few places in the world where you can study as many things as you can hear. And there are people from all walks of life. There are all kinds of people here. You can hear great variety of ideas. You can meet with a great variety of people. Loosely connected to diverse, the second adjective I chose was open. I think the majority of people does not only study great variety of things, but is also interested in a great variety of ideas. And in many people, so I say the people are very open, are quite welcoming, and are quite interested in whatever it is you have to say. And I was thinking about the third adjective and I said interesting, which might sound a very simple adjective, but I think is the one that describes the faculty the most, because interesting in the way that I agree the location is very central, it's very nice. A lot of things to do here and a lot of people to meet, a lot of interesting things to choose from, but there's also a lot of things going on campus. So there's barely a week, I would say, in a semester where there is not something extraordinary or irregular happening. So if you're here and if you walk around with open eyes and open mind, I'm sure you will find something to do, something that you can find some joy in.
When you mentioned about the many languages that is provided and taught at the university, at the Faculty of Humanities, I imagine that it gives the Faculty of Humanities a big status or excellence in a way, because it's such a variety of majors and courses. So could you, especially you, Orsolya, comment a bit on the position of the faculty in the Hungarian higher education and also internationally?
Well, the Eötvös-Loránd University, the ELTE, is the largest and the most prominent university in Hungary. So it's also the one that is the most long-standing. It was established centuries ago. And I think that reflects on, of course, there have been a lot of changes, faculties that have been split off, the name has changed, but still we look back to a long tradition. And I think that is not only something that gives you a sense of pride, but it also gives a sense of responsibility. It's something that the ELTE does represent. Of course, there are several other universities, but the ELTE does stand very prominently in Hungarian university. In the rankings, it has the highest. It attracts the largest student body. So it is something to live up to. So it's something that we also try to measure ourselves. And I, as the faculty, part of the faculty leadership, I do have a sense of responsibility also looking back of all the different periods in which the ELTE has sometimes flourished, sometimes struggled, and that gives also strength, and also it gives inspiration to simply solve problems and certainly a sense of pride. So within Hungary, it's it's the most prominent university. Also in international ranking, we have a high standing. So there are different fields that the ranking is measured in different fields, and we strive for an even higher ranking. But in the region, we are an intellectual center in the Central European region, but also in worldwide ranking. We are an important something to reckon with.
I heard you mention that you offer a lot of languages. Therefore, you have a lot of international students. What makes you an international institution apart from that?
I think that's a very good question. So we are, again, more than 70 languages means that actually worldwide we are the second. So we are the university that offers the second largest amount of languages. The first one is in China, and worldwide there's no other university that offers more. So we are the second in that rank. But that is not enough, I think, to consider yourself an international institution. So we are very keen on not only establishing contact with a lot of other universities, we have a lot of partnerships, all kinds of European, Erasmus, CEPUS, we have the CHARM University Alliance, we are part of that as the only Central European university. So there are on several levels, there is contact between the universities, but we are also very, very keen on attracting foreign students. So we have different possibilities for international students. We have of course, the Erasmus. We also have Stipendium Hungaricum and several other possibilities through which international students from different regions, so of course also outside Europe, can study here. And we offer a large number of English courses in very different institutes. We have also some joint courses. For instance, recently we have established a double degree in musicology, a master degree with the Zhejiang University in China. So the international partnerships and contacts are very important. Students, teachers, but I think it's also a mentality. I think it's also how you look upon yourself. So I think that the ELTE should, and more often than not, looks upon itself as not only a Hungarian university, but also as an international university in which I think openness and interested attitude and welcoming attitude is, I think, very vital. And I agree here with Levente that I think that's something that does typify the ELTE. So it's in the middle of the city. It has open doors. Anybody can walk into the campus, but it's also a mentality. We are open to other cultures. We welcome other cultures, other languages, other ways of thinking.
Levente, do you have experience with internationalization, or have you had before when you worked for the student union?
Sure. As a member of the student union, this was partially one of my specializations, but also as a student, I was thinking about it, and I think there's no continent where I hadn't had classmates from. I don't think there was a semester where I didn't have classes with international students. So I think you will not only meet international students and you will not only be in an international environment if you choose to participate in these programs. I think it's pretty hard to get through ELTE without meeting people from all over the world. So we had teachers from all around and we have classmates from all around. So it's very hard not to be part of something that is culturally diverse and that is open.
So actually, in class, you have international students and Hungarian students together?
Well, you see, both of my programs are in the modern languages program. So the language of education is always the language that so it's either English and French in my case. So there's not really a point in dividing that. So yeah, we were sitting together. I couldn't say about programs that are not modern languages, but I believe eventually you will end up meeting international students even in your classes. And I think one of the greatest aspects of ELTE is that you can take any class as an elective. So the faculty at the university offers a list of electives that are recommended. But if you're interested and you talk to the professor teaching that class, you can pretty much visit any kind of class. So I think that's a very good thing that we have here at ELTE.
That's a wonderful opportunity.
So we've talked about the modern languages and cultures, and of course those are accessible for anybody. But we also have, of course, Hungarian language programs, but there's a wide range of programs that is available in English. For instance, media and art studies, graduate schools. We have cultural heritage, Central European studies, archaeology, logic and philosophy of science, semiotics, and so on and so on. We also teach Hungarian language studies and language teaching for non-Hungarian speakers. So that's also an important course, media and art studies and PhD programs. Those are also a place where international students are participate in the education. So more than 10% of our student body is non-Hungarian, so international students, and we are striving to increase this number because it's something that we find very important.
I was just curious, as a member of another faculty, you mentioned that you have some electives for a few students, but as a member of another faculty, let's say psychology, can the students take electives also in the Faculty of Humanities?
Sure, you can. I have also taken electives in the Faculty of Education and Psychology, and I've also taken electives here at the Faculty of Humanities that were not strictly connected to my program. So just to show the diversity of languages and to brag a little, maybe. I have taken 3 semesters of Macedonian because that was offered as an elective, and I've got really interested in that. So while that was not something I would choose for a degree program, if you're interested in a language and a culture, or if you're interested in a field of study, of course you can be interested in media, in film studies, in philosophy, in logic, in history, in archaeology. I'm saying examples in modern languages because that's my personal experience. But yes, you can. Some language courses are even offered as electives. So I think that's a very good thing. And if you like culture, like literature, like linguistics, which I do, or if you like many other things, like arts and humanities, if you like, I'm sure even as a non-member of the Faculty of Humanities, if you go to a different faculty, I think we welcome students from all around to join and study something that they're interested in.
So are there any programs that are more popular than others, more difficult to get in? There are more applicants too.
Well, communication media studies is a very popular program for Hungarians and international students. But sometimes, I think that doesn't surprise anybody, but sometimes there are surprises. For instance, Korean studies. We've had an enormous increase in students for Korean studies, 200 students. And that is actually, we've been trying to find out why, because before, a couple of years ago, Japanese studies was very, very popular. But Korean studies is probably a kind of trendy subject now because of the K-pop. So Korean culture is very popular in Hungary among young people. And very often they get really into the music and then they start learning the language. And then finally they end up at the Korean studies. So there we've had to increase the faculty radically to be able to provide for those students who want to study Korean language and culture. Well, that's one example, which perhaps you wouldn't expect. But of course, there are several very popular curricular programs. And sometimes you also have kind of shifts that in 1 year we have more applicants for one program, and then 5 years later you have simply the interest changes, and then you have interest in another program. Again, now, for instance, from China, we have a very big interest in the music, in the Institute of Music and Art, because the Hungarian music tradition, the Kodai method, is something that is famous, renowned in China. And that's also why they have established this double master's, because they have been accepting students, but then they thought that it would be a very good idea to make a more structural cooperation. And that's why last year this double degree has been brought about.
And this just made me reflect how interesting it is, how society changes, also the education system and things changes. Because when you were talking about the Korean studies that increased the number, I think this is a global trend as well, because I have seen this in other countries, my home country as well. And also Korean movies and TV series, and they are like more and more popular among young people. And then these make them interested in to educate themselves more. And then this attracts students, and for the university changes as well. I don't know. It's just a lapse of reflection I have not thought about before.
I think that's absolutely right. So there are subjects, of course. I mentioned communication and media, but of course English and American studies. That is one of the all-time favorites, and I don't think that our capacity is already we're on the maximal capacity, and still I think there would be more students who would be very happy to study here, and we try to make it possible to accept them. But that's not so surprising. I just brought this Korean studies because it's something that you wouldn't expect if you. I as a vice dean for international affairs, when I first heard about these figures, it was very surprising, and we really had to. When we saw the increase, we had to figure out why it's interesting and how we can best provide for the needs of those students. Why are they coming here? What do they want from us? Because of course we want to capacitate, or we want to provide them with a program that is interesting for them. So we are also very dynamic in change, and we try to not only look at what is interesting at the moment, but we also try to be a step forward, or take it a step forward, be a step ahead, and try to make a prognosis of what will be interesting in a couple of years. And I think that's also something, for instance, just this morning, I came from a meeting with a number of heads of institutes, because we have plans to make a new master for intercultural management and communication. And that would mean that we would be a very practice-oriented, with very new technology, digital technology, but also the interculturality would play a very important role. And then there would be a pilot program first in Hungarian, but also with a very strong language element, and a year later also for international students. So again, you see that we're very keen on trying to figure out what way the whole globalized world is developing, and what will be interesting for the students who are perhaps only in their elementary school at the moment, but in a couple of years they will be our potential students.
I see that there's a huge variety in what you offer, and a lot of interest. And I just wonder, who are your ideal students who actually come to study?
I think any person who's interested in the humanities, and if I may just reflect to what you said, Madam Vice Dean, that we can track these changes and how the faculty is able to track the trends and changes. I think that just shows how students and academics of the humanities are very quick to notice and to react to the changes in society. And I think that's maybe an aspect of a student of the humanities, that you need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to have a general interest in society, in the humanities, in literature, in music, in the arts, in history. So if you're interested in these areas, if you have a generally good language skills, if this is something that's interesting for you, I think you will be a great candidate for a student. And while that sounds like a very general description, I fear, because of our large number of degree programs, it's very difficult to pinpoint, because a good historian is probably completely or somewhat different from a good musician or a good language teacher, a good translator. But in general, if you're interested in society, if you like languages, if you like arts, if you like humanities, I think you will find a degree program here that will work for you. And another great thing about the faculty is that you can, even if you have chosen your major, you can still choose a minor to diversify let's say, your portfolio or your area of studies. So I think whatever kind of a person you are, whatever your interests are, I'm sure you will find something that you will find interesting. And I'm sure you will find an institute and a degree program that works for you and that you are really interested in. At least that's what my hopes are for all our prospective students.
I agree with Levente completely. So I think that an open-mindedness, not only in regarding the studies, but also regarding the encounters that you can expect. So both Hungarian and international students, of course, when they step into the world of academia, it's a shift. I mean, for Hungarian students also, they often come from outside Budapest. They come from a secondary school. So it is a big step. It's growing up. So you do take a step into the world. So of course, international students come from a very different culture, often a different language. So maybe the challenges are larger. But for Hungarian students, they also make that kind of shift. And I think that kind of open-mindedness, the inquisitiveness and the willingness of listening to each other, willingness to ask questions, I think a critical thinking, that's something that we do try to work on in the Hungarian secondary education. That's not as common as in several other parts of the world. And I think that's also something that we try to facilitate and try to encourage the students to ask questions and be inquisitive, be interested in the subject, in the world around them, and also in the other students and in the teachers. So try to be a responsible part of the society in a way that you find out who you are, what the world around is, and what you are studying, and how that can fit into the future of adulthood when you try to find employment, and how you can find a segment of society in which you can use your qualities and your capacities to the fullest extent. So I think these are general things, and I think that most universities would wish for students like that. But my own experience is that the most of our students are, even if in the beginning they're a little bit timid or they have to get used to that academic freedom in which they step in a university, I think they are open-minded and they can certainly be made enthusiastic, and they can be, they're willing to go along with you if you offer them interesting intellectual baggage and possibility for meeting new ideas.
I have a question for you, Orsi. If I may call you Orsi.
Of course,
okay.
Please. Most people do so.
Right. You mentioned that you were also a student here, and now you were vice dean, and you have many, many years of experience. And I would like to ask you, how do you see the faculty or the university changing through all these decades for internationalization and in terms of quality of programs as well?
Well, that's a long time ago. So when I started studying here, that was just after the wall fell. So it was after Hungary became a democratic country. So it was a very different university. It was also a different location when I started studying here. And I actually only studied 3 years at the ELTE. I studied English and Dutch studies. That was in the building where earlier the Communist Party headquarters were one of the headquarters. So it was a very different setting. We had much fewer international students, and if we did have international students, they were mostly from the friendly countries, so from the ex-communist countries. So that's a long time ago. Then I went on and I studied in the Netherlands. So I studied at the University of Utrecht, and then I came back and studied at the Central European University here in Budapest. So that's very interesting because I really encountered a Hungarian university in Hungary, Dutch university in the Netherlands, and then an international university in Budapest. So I have a lot of comparison, and I must say that I think the ELTE has progressed immensely, of course, from those times just after the shift to democracy. It's very interesting for me also to compare. Always I have this double focus on Dutch. I know quite a lot of Dutch universities. I'm being a Dutch scholar myself. I teach there. I give guest lectures. And for me, it's always very interesting to compare how, what are the possibilities, what are the challenges, how you can make most of the situation that you are in. And I think that internationalization is something that a university profits from immensely, but it's also very important to know what your own qualities are, to be able to offer those to the visiting students and to know what you are good at. So simply to make a profile which is attractive. So simply be self-assured in that what we have to offer is something that is internationally also attractive, and know what your own qualities are.
You also mentioned that when students come to your university, to our university and to your faculty, that it's a great step for them from secondary school to begin university. And it's even a bigger challenge for international students because it's even a new environment, a new culture, and they leave their families back. Do you look after these new students? How do you do that if you do?
So at the faculty, part of my job, and of course I work together with our wonderful international office. I have wonderful colleagues. The head of the international office and her staff are really very attentive already from before the moment when the students arrive. So they put immense effort in the preparation, in the visas, in the transcripts, in the spreading the information. And once the students arrive here, then we have an international information day. We have a welcome ceremony. We have intercultural training possibilities. We have kind of buddy system. That's only the first step. And afterwards, we take a lot of trouble to find the students and also be a place where the students can find us. So simply to be the offices are open for the students and to make sure that they know where to come with their own problems. We also have a system of student representatives, which is very important, international student representatives also, and they are points of, or they often help us with reaching and understanding specific problems. At the institutes and the departments themselves, we also have individuals who are the points of contact. So the international office has a whole network of responsible people at the departmental level to where the international students can turn to with specific problems. We also have psychological counseling. We have all kinds of training courses, again, also for research level, so on the doctoral level. We also, so it's not only the well-being, not only the student well-being, we have festivals in which there's a lot of attention on international aspects, so simply for a culture to show themselves at potluck dinners and so on and so on. So there's in the student life, so there's a very, I think Levente will tell you more about the student life, but there's also specifically the international student life is vibrant at the ELTE.
There is actually a program going on outside the studio, I noticed when I was coming. So what was that? That's also an international affair?
It's called the Trefort Days. Mm-hmm. So this is the Trefort Garden and with the statue of Trefort Ágoston, a scientist. And the Trefort Days are for this faculty. And we have stands, and for 4 days we have festivals. There's wonderful concerts in the evening. But during the day there are cultural encounters because there are stands for the different departments and languages. And just before I came here, I went to the Indian stand where there was wonderful Indian spicy tea and you could taste some cookies. Then I walked to the Dutch stand, which is where my own colleagues were standing with cheese and with wooden clogs and with traditional Dutch games and music. So they were having a lot of fun with the students there and with the passers-by. But the whole garden is full of stands. Every day there's a different offer. And that also shows the diversity. It shows of the richness. So it's not only, of course, the books, it's not only the language, it's also everything that is around that.
Levente, does the student union takes any role in supporting new students, perhaps international students?
It does. So there are different levels of mentoring based on the kind of program through which you arrive to Hungary and through which you arrive to ELTE. You will have a different mentoring system. The one that the student union is responsible for is a mentor system where if you sign up for a mentor, upper year students will also sign up for mentees. So you will be paired with somebody who likely studies the same things as you are. We also organize events, and there's like a big focus on our already existing events, such as the one going on outside right now, to have programs that are not only welcoming international students, but for specifically an international community, or where this is the main focus of the thing or of the program that we portray. So we also have a student council office that has very regular opening hours. And if students have any issues, of course, they should go to the relevant offices of the faculty. But if they're not sure where those offices are, or there are like some questions where we can help them with, we're also open and available. We also have an open door policy. So if any student feels a bit lost, they can just come to us and we will help them figure out whatever it is that they need. The student council is also divided into institutes. So the different institutes also organize parties, excursions. You can go around Hungary, sometimes neighboring countries. There's also been a few international trips where some student council members organize little visits for students. And I think that's a great opportunity for especially first or second year students who might not have a big community already to get to know to other people, and for international students also to get to know the country, because there's also so much more in Hungary than just downtown Budapest, which is my favorite spot of the whole country, but it's worth to go visit other places as well.
It's nice to know that you have student backup as well.
Regarding research, for instance, conferences organized by the faculty, do you have something that is recurrent, or if in English perhaps, that is important to mention?
We have so many conferences, and there, of course, as a vice dean, it's even one of my practical obligations with other vice deans that we have to, the dean and the vice deans have to open a lot of these conferences. And sometimes we can't manage because there's such an immense number of conferences that have to be opened. And it always amazes me the diversity of the subjects in which a conference is organized. So it's always very funny to be invited to a conference that's not my own field of research. I have my own conferences that I go to as a researcher, but I also simply as a member of the faculty leadership, I have to often go to other conferences, and it always delights me to see what other subjects scholars can seriously gather around and discuss. I think there are conferences on different levels. So there are international, large. So we had last year, we had the World Conference of Archaeological Studies, which is travels around the whole world. That was held here at the ELTE, and just recently, a month ago, I signed an agreement with another subject that was something about, I think, applied linguistics world conference that will come to the ELTE next year. So we often host these large, many hundred scholars arriving. So those kind of conferences. We also have smaller international and Hungarian conferences. We also have student conferences. So for doctoral students, but even for students on master level interested in research, which give a possibility for those who later wish to do some or are thinking of research to demonstrate their knowledge there and measure their knowledge. There's also Hungarian student competition, which is held at different universities. The ELTE has hosted that. So we really have conferences on very different levels. There are also joint research programs. So there are, Horizon programs, other research programs, collaborations. There are also smaller scale collaborations. Allow me to talk about a collaboration which is, again, just now in progress. At the faculty, we are working together with the University of Utrecht. They have a wonderful interdisciplinary course, which is a cultural heritage course, with a lot of digital techniques. This has been so inspiring for us because it's very much a challenge-based learning. So it's not a frontal teaching, but it's with very innovative educational practices that we went, a small group of teachers from the history, from the archaeology, and from the Dutch department. We visited the University of Utrecht together with another faculty, so a colleague from the information technology, and we decided to adapt this course and to do it in a joint way with the University of Utrecht, so that in a hybrid classroom, our students have the possibility to work in certain instances together with the Utrecht students. So also, this is again something small. It has to do with teaching, but it also has to do with research, because these are research master students. And of course, it has to do with internationalization. So it has to do simply with giving the possibility of students to encounter each other, even if it's not always physically, but in hybrid classrooms, so on online encounters also.
Perhaps you also wanted to add something to it about academic excellence and research.
Sure. As a student about to get my master's degree as well, I do not have a ton of experience, but in the field of research. But I know ELTE does, or the Faculty of Humanities does, find it important to allow even master's students to participate in academic life. So we also have, as you mentioned, student conferences where students can try to present their research for the first time. So if you're interested in PhD studies, or if you're interested in academic career, even while you're doing your master's, you have an opportunity to practice, to see if this is something that suits you or something that works for you, if this is really something that you're interested in. As a student, you also have the opportunity to take part in the research of certain departments. So if a department is working on a project, very often a student will help, or a student will participate in some aspects of their research. So I think that's also very important. It's sort of like a tutoring in a way, where you get to have like a more hands-on experience, or actually see what it is that an academic or a researcher does outside of teaching classes. So I think that's also a great opportunity. And in general, I think it's very reassuring as a student to know that the people who teach us, our instructors, our teachers, are people who really are great researchers who are really on the top of their field. So I think that's been my general experience, even in lectures and seminars or in any kind of conference that I've participated in or watched throughout the years. I always felt really reassured. I think that's been my general experience studying here at the Faculty of Humanities. So whatever conference I went to or whatever lecture or guest lectures, I think that's also something that happens quite often in the Faculty of Humanities, where foreign lecturers or lecturers from other universities would come and give us lectures.
I think this yes, I think this so the intellectual or the academic excellence is also typical for the ELTE. So also in research area, we have a very high number of professors who are members of the academy, also in large international projects, research projects, and have collaborations with foreign universities. We also have the guest professors in all fields arriving and giving lectures here. But we also have all kinds of coaching and training for researchers who are at the beginning of their career. So we have, research techniques, digital techniques, publications, and so on. So the doctoral office and the Vice Dean of Research is also, or of Science, they really make an effort, but also they do, for instance, contests for innovative thinking, innovative ideas, and then they invite through a third party. So they invite also companies to sit in the committee of evaluation, and then if an innovative idea is attractive enough, then a company can even collaborate with the student who has a good idea or with the team that has a good idea. So also innovation is something also that we strive for, also with collaboration, not only with the academic field, but also with certainly with companies. This course that I was talking about earlier, intercultural management and communication, is very much with the involvement of companies because it has a compulsory traineeship at one of the companies. So we take seriously that we are, of course, this is a academically renowned, or it's a high quality for its academic standing, our university, but most of the students will not stay in academia. They will find employment somewhere in the world, and this is also an important aspect for which we want to prepare our students.
And that's very important because Budapest, Hungary in general, is a hub for a lot of international companies. So
absolutely.
This is even easier for international, locals as well, of course, but for international students to follow their career outside of academia in the country still.
Absolutely.
So that's very beneficial.
Yeah.
I have one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could advise prospective students to study at the Faculty of Humanities in 2 sentences, why would you choose? Why would advise this student to choose the Faculty of Humanities at ELTE?
I think there's few places in the world where you can study as many things and meet as many people as here. So sentence number 1 would be about the academic perspectives in the university. So if you choose to study here, you will study interesting things. You will study things that you can benefit from in your professional career. And the other sentence would probably be about the student life here, which I think is, there's also a few places in the world where you can have as much fun and meet as many people and make as many strong connections as you can here. So I would advise, if I were 18 again, I would definitely choose the Faculty of Humanities again. So if you are 18 listening to this, I would suggest you give it a go.
It would be a lovely last sentence, but I still have a question. Regarding student life, can you tell us or tell our audience a bit about your campus? Because I think your campus is special and unique, even within ELTE University. So how is it unique and what is it like?
The campus is the green heart of Budapest. So I think Budapest in itself is a wonderful place to be a student. It's not only culturally rich, it's a metropolis, but it's a very friendly city. So actually crime rate is very low. It's also, compared to other cities in Europe, I think it's affordable for students. And Budapest has a really very lively cultural and societal life. There's a lot to do every evening, every day. You can choose from countless possibilities. Budapest has a lot to offer historically also. The thermal baths, the the location itself, so Buda and Pest, the lovely two parts of the city, the Danube. So it is simply a very pleasant place to be. The climate of one is wonderful in Hungary. And the campus itself is really a green beating heart within the center of Budapest. So with great public transport system, you can go anywhere, but you can also walk to the most places. And because the buildings the campus in itself is several buildings which are enclosed within a garden with beautiful trees, grass fields, benches. It's really, you step out of the busy city suddenly into a small paradise of intellectual encounters and friendly students and teachers. So I think it's really the place to be.
I think it is very special to imagine this, that you can have this part of the city for yourself, whereas the downtown and Budapest inner city is so crowded with huge houses and blocks and busy roads. So it's really a treasure, I can say.
Absolutely. I agree.
I agree. I think also the most interesting aspect of the campus is it being so, I want to say outdoorsy, because, you will have different institutes will have classes in different buildings. So everybody's walking around on campus, not in a building, but on campus all day. That's usually where you would meet your friends between classes. We have cafes, we have a bar on campus, we have beanbags on campus. We have outdoor spaces where you can just sit down and hang out with your friends.
Cozy corners.
Cozy corners. We do. We have. So there's a lot to do socially. There's a lot of places to go, and so many of these places are outside. I think that's a great aspect, because you get to breathe some fresh air between classes. And as you mentioned, Madam Weisdien, it's also we also have a rather pleasant climate. So save a few months in the winter when it's exam season anyway. The majority of the semester, I feel like, between classes is spent outside, which is a great thing about the campus.
And just remembering that we are going to have an episode on Budapest, so that we're going to talk all about the wonders that Orsi just mentioned.
Then we would like to thank you, Orsi and Levente, for coming and sharing your experiences at the Faculty of Humanities with us now, and of course with our audience. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It was Raissa and Flóra in the ELTE Walk podcast series. In our next episode, we are going to explore about sports opportunities at the university. See you next time, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.